I guess welcome to our first episode of Keeping Up with APIDA. This is going to be a video series / podcast series brought to you by the APIDA Task Force here at San Jose State. APIDA standing for Asian Pacific Islander Desi American. And, we're here. We'll introduce who we are, but the idea is that we're going to do a weekly video chat, super casual, just so people get an understanding of some of the resources we have on campus, as well as some of the things that we care about, and a little bit about just who we are and topics that you might be interested in listening to. And since we are recording this over lunchtime, even though this will be uploaded after lunchtime, so don't expect this to be uploaded during lunchtime. But we're doing this over lunchtime, so all of us have food as well. We'll probably have some food on these. So to start off with, we're just going to introduce who we are, and then talk about who you are a little bit and what you're eating. So we'll start with Anoop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Was not expecting that.
Sorry.
But I already kind of planned for my bit. Okay. So my name is Anoop Kaur. And so backtrack my name. My mom gave me my first name. She really likes that name because of history. There was a BB Anoop who did a bunch of brave things. And so that's what she wanted me to do. Then my last name means princess. That's why I'm wearing my princess shirt. Okay, That was it. My pronouns.
What does your shirt say? What does your shirt say?
It says, "This princess slays her own dragons."
Nice.
Yes. I got it from this. Instagram's always calling me out on what I want to buy, so I just literally bought it off Instagram. But my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm currently a junior at San Jose State, and my major is biology, concentration systems physiology, and a minor in chemistry. So pre-med, basically. Typical Indian girl. But a little bit about my identity. I'm multiracial, multi-ethnic, so I'm half Asian, half Latinx. And so that made me kind of question my belonging in either community. And so that's why I'm so excited to be a part of this podcast. I really think that, we can share our experiences. And I searched up a stat the other day. There are a lot of multiracial Asian Americans, and I feel like that isn't really addressed in our community at all. And so that's just a little bit about me. Now onto what I'm eating. Disclaimer, my mom made everything. Okay, so I have some saag paneer. I have some dal paronta.
Wow.
When I eat, I always have some onions because I really like that crunch with my roti.
Oh, raw onions?
Like raw onions.
Okay.
And then I have some gur. It's basically natural brown sugar because my mom makes things spicy and I like a little sweet bite after I eat. And then I have some mint chutney. Very complete.
Nice.
My aspirations for food is always Joda Akbar. I really like that platter with all the farl. Okay, I like the platter of all the different things. It makes me feel like bougie. I don't know.
So fancy. So fancy.
For those that don't know, that's a movie about a king and a queen, basically.
Very inaccurate movie. But
yes, but they were one of the they belonged to a lineage of the Mughal Empire, and it was very extravagant and very regal, and the food scenes were wow. Yeah. Do you want to pass it on to someone else?
I'm gonna pass it on to Pearl.
Why would you pass it on to Pearl?
Okay. Well, I was not prepared. Although I eat Indian food every day of my life, probably. My mom bought pizza for the kids because my mom has a daycare. So I just grabbed a slice because I just came back from errands. So that's it. I'm Parl. I'm a fourth year. My major is finance. I guess if we're going into specifics of what I am, I'm Punjabi. So it's like a northern state in India, like a new half of the nuke, but you know what I'm saying. That half. I think you're from there, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, that was me.
my mom is. Yeah. No, you're good.
His last name. Yeah. That's me. I'm on the PETA task force because I'm super proud of my heritage and my identity, and I feel like we need a platform for people like us because we do make a huge population in San Jose State. That's me. Okay, I'll pass it to Jeannie.
I don't know why I got so nervous and like my whole body's like um my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm Chinese and Viet, literally half and half. Right now, let me just start with what I'm eating. So I'm I got really lazy, but I was really hungry. So I just scooped up some rice and then I bought some seaweed, which is called a big roll, and it's tom yum flavor. The reason why I decided to eat this with the rice, normally I don't eat seaweed with rice, is because the seaweed has like a soup kind of flavor taste to it and it just tastes weird on its own. So that's why I'm eating it with rice. The reason why I'm on the PETA task force is because I feel like there's not enough representation that's across like social media as well as around our campus in like awareness wise and things like that. And I really want to be able to help drive that awareness. And yeah. And then, okay, that's all.
Sharon, you want to go?
I was eating, so I thought you would go.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, I can go. Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Singh. I'm the program coordinator for Mosaic Cross Cultural Center. And I've been, I'm also alumni. So, you know, advocating for spaces and resources for APIDA students has been something that's, you know, been at the forefront of my career. And then, yeah, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I identify as Desi, South Asian, but also Pacific Islander because my family is actually from Fiji and it's been like 5 generations. And so we don't really know a lot of our ties to India, right, the motherland. So I do have, you know, I feel like a lot of the Indian culture that I consumed, it's been either through this hybrid of like what it means, right, to be an islander and also Desi, and the history of like colonization and you know, all of that kind of plays into my identity. And then yeah, I'm also an immigrant to the US. And so, you know, that's a huge part of how I think, you know, kind of what everyone's been touching on, right? Like, we don't see a lot of conversations about what it means to have these complex identities within even just the South Asian diaspora. And then on top of that, you know, to just be, right, to see yourself. So that's why I'm really excited to be part of this video podcast. And I'm eating, you know, I'm not like Anoop where everything is like beautiful and set up, everything is in a bowl. But essentially I have I made aloo matar, which is literally peas and potato. And then I made dal today for lunch with spinach. And then I just mixed everything in a bowl with rice, and that's what I have today.
Mm-hmm.
Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. So hi, my name is Chris Yang. I'm the director of the Mosaic Cross Cultural Center, as well as currently serving as the chair of the PETA Task Force. My pronouns are he, him, his. And a little bit about myself, I guess. So I identify as Chinese, Chinese American. I was born here in the United States in California, but my parents were born in Beijing and in Taipei, the one and the other. And my dad, who was born in Beijing, he was actually born in 1945, 49. It's a good thing this isn't a public podcast or anything. Anyway, he was born during the Communist Revolution, and so right after he was born, my father's family fled to Taiwan. And then my mom was born in Taipei, so my parents grew up in Taiwan. And they immigrated over when my dad was a graduate student. He attended college here in California after attending college in Taipei. So he has a grad degree from UCLA in chemistry. So grew up here. Anyway, and I'm eating. It's kind of a Taiwanese like breakfast / street food thing called dan bing, or like egg, like pan fried bread, which I made. So it's super sloppy. I apologize. And I'm drinking a very non-Asian Dr. Pepper. So yeah, whatever. But I appreciate everybody sharing what they're eating. I think aside from Anoop, who's super bougie, like the reality of eating Asian food is you just kind of eat what's in your fridge. Like, people think about like Asian food as like this, like, when I say people, I mean white people, as like this kind of like mysterious, like, you have dishes and you have all this stuff, and the reality is like we all have leftovers in our fridge, and you just throw things in a bowl and you mix it up and you heat it up. Again, aside from Anoop, who's super pushy, but it's okay.
I want to quickly add about that perception, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of Punjabi food is vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, I would have questions like, are you getting enough protein? How is that making you full? Like, you should be eating meat too. And so that was like a misconception in my youth. Like, because you don't eat meat, you don't have your full diet.
Totally. I mean, I think, and this is also, bias on my part, but a lot of this comes from growing up in California. When I think about meals in the United States, they're kind of these like packaged meals that you get, at places, right? So it's like hamburger and fries, or like pizza and salad, or like steak and potatoes. And so there's always like a protein and like a vegetable. Yeah. Or sometimes like a protein and a starch or whatever. And, growing up, that's not the way that I was taught to think about food. The way that I was taught to think about food was that you have different foods from different places, and that you want to try to balance your meal with like cool foods and hot foods, with spicy foods and non-spicy foods. If you're going to have protein in your foods, then you want like different kinds of protein. So you want to have a chicken, and you want to have a fish, and you want to have, like, so it's not just like a giant chicken dish or anything, That was always how I was taught to think about my foods. So like it was a totally different conception, I think, than like what I see on TV or whatever.
Yeah. Like when I think of American food, right? Like I actually think of, I mean, yes, it's like burgers and pizzas, but I also think of like Thanksgiving dinner, like that very traditional where like the huge chunk of like turkey, right? Like the bird in the middle, and then like all the sides that no one really likes, but I'm like, I love the sides.
I actually don't like eating turkey. I actually enjoy eating the sides a lot more, and that's where I'm usually at the dinner table. I'm always by the sides.
Right. Mashed potatoes, stuffing, a salad. Like, that's what I like. I actually like turkey better the next day when you make it into a sandwich. Like, that's where it's at for me.
So let me ask you all, since we're on the topic, what are your experiences with stuff like Thanksgiving or like turkey dinners or like, like what you would maybe see in a movie or on TV as far as like food or meals go?
I think personally growing up, my parents never bought turkey and they weren't really interested in like that traditional like Thanksgiving dinner. So I feel like at most my family would get together and we'll just cook like noodles or like some sort of like and then we'll all get together and eat. But not necessarily like a full traditional like Thanksgiving dinner, at least on my mom's side. And then on my dad's side, I feel like since my cousins, I have a lot of cousins on my dad's side and they're more like born and raised here as well. And so they're more like Americanized in a sense. And so it's kind of like it has been like a few years since like we've all got together, or at least I've joined their get-togethers. But when we did have like family gatherings, I remember like there were like turkey and there were like hams and like other variations of meat available, like the fried porks. I think I forgot. It's kind of like I forgot what it's called, but it's like called like shao rou, like the one where it's like fried, and then so we have like those kind of like pork and things instead of like.
For us, I've never had a traditional like kind of American meal for anything. It's always Indian food, and that's how we do it. That's how we always done it. But like sometimes we'll throw in like a little side, like my brother will make like steak or something, but that's really it. Like we never done that traditional turkey, nothing like that. I would like because it kind of grosses us out. I don't know. I would just do it. It's not used to that, so yeah.
I relate to that. My family never celebrates Thanksgiving. Like we just use it as a day off. People like come over because everyone has a day off, but it's not like a celebration. And like it will be kind of like a mix of Indian or Mexican food depending on who comes over. But never turkey. And then because if it's at my house, the food has to be vegetarian because my mom's like ironclad like that.
Isn't it Iron Fist? Or is that something else?
There's ironclad, and you can also say iron fisted about other things.
I've never heard it. What is it, clad?
Clad, like wearing, like you're clad in iron.
Oh,
CLAD.
okay, well, the more you know.
Yeah, no worries.
For me, my parents, divorced when I was around like 11 or 12, and so I always had like 2 Christmases, 2 Thanksgivings, 2 everything, and now I have like 3. And so, my dad's side, he would buy like the pre-made turkeys, but he would buy like half a turkey because no one really likes it, but he would get it just to like be like, well, it's there on the table, right? But then my dad tends to like barbecue or make like roast a lot more, so we would do like meat and mashed potatoes and stuff, but it just wouldn't be a turkey. Whereas my mom, and then like Indian food as well. And then whereas my mom, she would do the whole like turkey, right? Like a 2 or 3 pound turkey. And then she would also do Indian food next to it. So we would have like literally our table would be like a mixed mash at my mom's of like turkey and all the fixings, and then like fish curry or like lamb curry or something like that too. And so I just was raised with like everything fused together. And I think it growing up, we didn't really celebrate Christmas or Thanksgiving, especially in Fiji. We would just hang out at a resort or by the beach and like do that. But then I think once we immigrated here and my brother was born, I think it was to really get him to understand the fusion of like who he is, right? He is American. And I think my parents also really wanted to make sure that he didn't feel like left out of the American like experience, I guess. But then we're also, not going to let him forget or like let us forget that like we have our own foods, right? And so even if it wasn't really spoken about, I think it might have been like subconsciously, right, there that like all these foods represent our family. And so, yeah, like, you know, I and maybe because maybe I don't go towards turkey because I would eat like lamb curry and then like mashed potatoes. Like it would just be that fusion of like on my plate.
And your brother was born here in California?
Yeah, he was born in California. And then even like, you know, my 3 other siblings, they're all like, this is also like, my mom continues that, right? So like sometimes she'll switch it up and, you know, she'll make like what is it, like glazed ham or something instead of a turkey, but like, you know, she'll do that. And then like last Thanksgiving or the year before last, you know, now that I'm married and, you know, we would go over to like my partner is also like, oh my God, there's so much food in the span of the same week. Right. And so it's just like a lot of like food on both sides. I'm like, welcome to my life during the holidays.
Yeah. Your unique situation of having to go to 2 different dinners.
Right.
Yeah. You know, for me, growing up, you know, we never did Thanksgiving either. Even though we grew up here, right? But my parents didn't really they did not consume United States media as much. Like, I mean, they would watch TV occasionally, but like they really like they found immigrant communities to really like 100% indulge, right? So like I was born in Monterey Park, which is like so many Chinese people, right? It's like it's lousy with Chinese people, right? So many people in Monterey Park. And then when we moved up here, we moved to San Jose. And when I was in 4th grade, we moved to Cupertino, right? Which again, so many Chinese people, right? So like they did not need to like assimilate where they were, right? So like there were Asian markets and there were Asian like video stores. So anyway, that's a long way to say they never watched like TV shows, right? Like United States TV shows. So like they don't really know in their head what Thanksgiving looks like in the United States. It's just they don't have a picture of it, right? So like growing up, we just never did Thanksgiving, right? It was just like y'all said, it was just a day off, which like super thankful for, right? Like, oh yeah, day off. So we would just have these giant like Chinese food meals, right? Where my mom or my aunt would cook these big meals, right? And then growing up, like me and my cousins, because we you know we were raised in California, like it must have been around like the time we started becoming teenagers, like preteens, teenagers, like 12, 13, 14, when we would really ask for like United States Thanksgivings. Like we like, you know, my mom and my aunt, God bless them, would spend all this time cooking. And we would just be like, we really want like American Thanksgivings, you know? And so
right, it goes back to that like that fear of missing out.
Right. We thought we were missing out, right? Because it looked so good on TV, right?
Right.
And so like, I don't know, starting when I was like maybe in like high school or something like that, the way our Thanksgivings would look would be we would have all this Chinese food, right? Home cooked Chinese food on the table, and then in the middle would just be a turkey. Like like that was the capitulation. Like my mom was like, all right, fine. And like it helped that like at her workplace, the way they compensated for Thanksgiving bonuses was they would just give you a free turkey, right? A lot of companies do this. What? So a lot of companies just give their employees like a coupon for either free turkey or like $25 off a turkey or something like that, right? So like every year, her company, everybody would get a coupon for the Honey Baked Ham Company Corporation, right? Who does turkeys for Thanksgiving and all this stuff. And so they get a coupon for like $25 or $50 or whatever it was. And they just be like, go buy yourself turkey, right? So my mom would be like, all right, cool. So she'd buy turkey. And then like, it would just be in the middle of the table. And it'd just be all Chinese food around it. Which really like did not give us a sense of what Thanksgiving was like. Like we were like, oh, cool, there's turkey. But like, you know, that's not enough, right? That's not the same as having Thanksgiving. So like it wasn't until way later in my life when I was an adult and stuff, and I was dating an ex of mine who when we were dating, like, you know, she is white and like was raised in a very like United States household. And so we went back to her parents' place for Thanksgiving one year. And that was when I was like, oh, this is like United States Thanksgiving. Like it was a totally different experience. And it was like there was an entire culture to it, right? Where it was like you eat dinner at like 2 p.m, which like I was like, why are we eating at 2? And like so you basically have 2 meals. I don't know if you've all experienced this. You either have 1 or 2 meals in the United States, right? You either don't eat in the morning and you wait until the afternoon to eat, or you eat like a really light breakfast.
Yeah.
Where it's just like something super light, and then you just wait until dinner's ready, right? Because like I guess the people who cook the Thanksgiving meals, they have to spend all morning finishing up, right?
Right.
So like there's always food going on the whole day. Usually as dishes are finished, you can like snack. You're allowed to snack on them, right? So like people make like breadsticks and shit like that. So you'll like eat breadsticks. And then you eat at like 2, and it's like a full-on dinner. And then you're like stuffed. And then the food is just left on the table. And for the rest of the day, people are just picking at it.
Right, exactly.
I was like, it blew me away. I was like, what is this? Like, what is going on? Like, we don't have meals anymore? Is there no society? Like, what's going on? It blew my mind.
Yeah, my favorite, I don't know how this became like a tradition, but ever since my twin sisters were born, right? Like, for whatever reason, like the first Christmas that they could actually like run down the stairs and like open presents and stuff, my mom bought like she'll do like individual gifts, but then she'll do like a family gift, right? Something smaller. And she bought these like really decadent like Belgium truffles or something. And we opened it, right? And we're like, oh my God. And she's just like, we just looked at her and we were like, what are we gonna do with all, like, it was like this pack of truffles, right? And I was like, what are we gonna do? And she's like, oh, I was thinking you could make your chocolate croissants with these truffles. So I'm like, okay, great. So all of a sudden, every Christmas morning, I make croissants with the chocolate truffles. And then, but then, like, you know, it takes forever to like.
You're so domestic, Sharon.
But what ends up happening is like as we're opening presents, like we start to get hungry, right? And it takes forever. Like each kid wants to like open their present and like, you know, like be like, oh my God, and then we have to take a picture with it, right? And then you got to clean up the wrapping and the bags. And so we just end up eating chocolate as we're opening the gifts. And then by the time I like get to making the chocolate croissants, we're just like, oh, it's here.
So let me ask you all a question about assimilation then, since we're here. Just out of like, and you know, warning to anybody who's watching or listening to this, we didn't prep for this. I have no idea what's about to happen. It could be nothing. It could be nothing. But like, just out of your head, can you think about times in which like you like were just living your everyday life, and then we're suddenly confronted with like, oh, this is like weirder for other people because I'm not, you know, doing this the way United States people do it.
I have the perfect story for this.
Okay.
And actually, I want to be calling out them white folks about this. I would go to school as an elementary schooler, right? And I live with my mom. She'd pack me lunch, and my food would be yellow because my mom would put haldi in it. So that's like turmeric. Mm-hmm. And so I would have friends and they'd be like, ew, why is your food yellow? Like, that's so gross. And I'd be like, what do you mean? Like, this is so tasty. I love my food. And so like I would go home and I would be like, Mom, my people are asking me why my food is yellow. Like, I don't understand. What's the problem? And then I'd be like, can you make my food not yellow? And looking back at that, like, that breaks my heart because like my mom made my lunch for me. But now them white folks are all about turmeric. They're like, turmeric tea and
turmeric shots. Yeah, turmeric shots.
But back then they were like, why is your food yellow? That's it.
I mean, I remember, so like Indian weddings like last 3 or 4 days, right? And there's certain like ceremonies that are part of it, right? And so as the elementary kid, right, like your sisters are supposed to do, like your girl cousins are supposed to do parts of the ceremonies with the bride, right? And so if the wedding was on a Saturday, then like Thursday and Friday would also have some of the like wedding things going on, right? And so, you know, on those days, my mom or my dad would like pull me out of school, or we'd be traveling, right, that week. And then I would come back on Monday and I would have Mandy, right, Hannah, on my hand. And people would always be like, ew, what's wrong with your skin? Like, what? It smells funny. Like, what's wrong with your hand, right? And I would like sit there like clenching my hand when I would come back because I didn't want people to like be like, ew, what's wrong with your hand or what's wrong with your skin, right? And I think that like, and now it's like you see it as like stickers, and you see it at like these music festivals, and you see it on Instagram as an aesthetic thing. And like, you know, during certain ceremonies, right, like Mandy does have certain meanings, but otherwise it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a way to artistically like, you know, prepare your body and your mindset to like celebrate your family and your loved ones. And I just like sit there now whenever I like see folks wear the jewelry or the bindi or the henna, and they're just like, oh yeah, look at me. But then as a kid, I was being made fun of.
So just out of curiosity, do y'all feel that way about yoga too? Like, like, do y'all feel that way when random people walk up to you and like are like, namaste?
I have, oh my God, that's, oh my God. Okay. I have a perfect story. Okay. So last year my partner and I went to Santa Cruz, and we were on the beach reading.
Santa Cruz.
And we were on the beach reading, and then literally maybe like 6 feet apart from us, I see, and I could tell there were students because they had their backpacks and stuff, and they had like the Santa Cruz University UC, you know, slug stuff all over their stuff. And I look over, and they're doing yoga poses and taking pictures of each other. They're not actually doing yoga. They're just doing the poses and then getting their friends to take pictures, right? And my partner and I are both, you know, Desi, and we're sitting there literally 6 feet from them on the beach looking at them do these poses. And I'm like, are you aware that as a white person, you're just using yoga as an aesthetic thing for your Instagram? There's a spirituality, there's mindfulness, there's a grounding, right? And so I think I don't have a problem with other communities like practicing yoga. I think it's great, right? It's one way to really connect with yourself and your mindfulness. But there's something about it when it gets taken and it's used as an aesthetic thing, right? That's when I'm like, get out of here. That's my opinion.
I feel like you can appreciate it, but as long as you're not taking that, like, as long as you recognize its roots, I'm fine with that. But I have a really bad story. So I went to Berkeley with my cousin a while ago, and we were just shopping down those shops. I don't know Berkeley like that, but there's just this one street, and it's all like hippie shops. So you just go in, and then like it's like the same store over and over again, honestly. And then they sell like pipes and they sell like weed items, but then next to it they'll sell like things like pictures of our gods, which by the way are all behind me because this is also my dad's temple room. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but anyways, so I just feel like that's weird. Like you shouldn't sell like little bottles of alcohol or like weed pipes right next to like Hindu gods. I thought that was really weird to me. I've never seen that before in my life. And the kick of it all is it's sold by white people. Like, I did not see a single Indian person in any of these stores. I saw an Asian in one, but he wasn't in, or Desi. And then, so I was looking at this one bracelet, and I don't know if you guys know what those beads are. They're like these little brown, I'm forgetting the name. And I was looking at them and I was like, wow, this is crazy. They're really selling this for $50. Like you could get this for a couple like cents back in the motherland. Like this is nothing. And I was wondering, I told my cousin in Hindi, I was like, I wonder why like they're charging so much for this. And then the white guy spoke Hindi actually, which was wild. And he was like, oh, we're selling this because this is from a special cave special cave in the Himalayas. I was like, no, it's not. Like, you can get this anywhere. What do you mean? Like, this is so common. He was like, no, I got this from a special cave. I don't know. Something about that conversation just still to this day has not sat right with me. Like, the man had like literally weed pipes, alcohol pipes, and pictures of God laying right next to it, and he tried to sell me that for $50. I was like, that's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. Something about them profiting off that doesn't sit right to me. I hope nobody purchases stuff from Berkeley like that. That's my story.
Welcome to your TED Talk.
Jeannie, do you have any stories?
I feel like my story is very similar to like a new like lunch story. I think I remember growing up, like my elementary school really liked taking field trips, and you know, like a lot of kids going to like different field trips, they love bringing like Lunchables. But like my time, like when I was in elementary school, only like mainly my dad was working, so like we were living off of one paycheck, right? And so every time we would go on field trips, I would feel like, oh, I feel so bad. First of all, I would feel really embarrassed to have my parents go as like chaperones, because like to me, I'm like, you don't even understand English. Like, let's just not do this. I don't want to like have to like put you in a spot where you feel uncomfortable. But in reality, I feel like I was being selfish because I was the one being uncomfortable. And then also at the same time, like obviously when my parents go with me on field trips, they see how other kids have like Lunchables, but then I would be the one to bring like the bag, like nice lunchbox, like lunch and stuff, and I would feel really embarrassed. And like there was one point where like once I hit like fourth grade or something, I just didn't want my parents to come anymore, so I would just hide the permission slip from them, like at least the chaperone part. And then like I would like beg my mom to like go get me Lunchables, because I thought that like my mom was easier to persuade to get me something versus my dad, because he could just be like, no, just go with it, you know, like who cares? And like he's like less understanding of like that part, but like for my mom, she's like, okay, fine. And so like Lunchable back then was like $6 or something, so like or something like along the lines where it's like really expensive and it's like not even like filling. So like I basically, and like I would get like the pizza kind, which is dumb because like I really should have gotten the chicken nuggets one, but I got the pizza one, and you know the pizza one, the dough ain't good. And so I don't know why I was doing that to myself, but I did that. And like I feel really bad, like looking back, I wish I was just more proud of like my food that I was bringing in, like the teachings that my parents were teaching me, like how to like be more frugal and how to be like more saving, and like I don't know, it's just a mess.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I had the same thing too in my when I was growing up too, and I did get Lunchables like occasionally. I remember there was like a period of maybe a year or two when I got Lunchables. And the Lunchables I got, I mean, I'm older than y'all. The Lunchables I got were even worse than the ones that you all probably saw. Like when I was a kid,
floppy ham.
Yeah, when I was a kid, like Lunchables is just being invented, and it was like you got like 2 crackers and like 2 slices of cheese and then 2 slices of like ham or salami, and you're just supposed to make your own little like salami sandwich thing with the crackers. And I didn't even like cheese. I still don't like cheese, so like I would throw away the cheese, so it'd be even worse. It's just terrible.
It would also be like hot in your backpack.
Yeah.
And cheese would become like this like little block, and you would have to like peel it off. It was weird.
So yeah, but I had the same thing growing up. Like I don't. Looking back on it, I actually should ask my parents like how they ate lunch at school, because like they had no concept in their head how we would have to eat lunch at school. So like right when I started like having to bring lunch when I was a kid, like my mom, I remember my mom would be like, well, here's some leftovers, and I'm like, well, there's no microwave or anything, like I don't know what you want me to do with leftovers, right? So then my mom would be like, all right, so what do you want for lunch? And I'd be like, I don't know what I want for lunch. Like that, I think that's when I got Lunchables, because I was like, I don't know, Lunchables, I guess. But she'd be like, what do you want for lunch? And I'd be like, I don't know. So then like finally, like she just every day would just be like, what do you want, right? And so finally I was just like, I guess a sandwich and chips and stuff, right? Like that's what people eat, right, normally. Yeah. I'm like, a sandwich, right? And she's like, all right. So she would make me like a sandwich, and like it was like the most Taiwanese sandwich you can ever get. It was like Taiwanese white bread, like the milk bread, like the Taiwanese milk bread, like that. I mean, it was good. It was delicious. But it was like the milk bread, and then it was like like a fish paste, which was really good. It was just, you know, salty, right? It was like a fish paste, and then it had like the like shredded like pork, like fried pork, and that was my sandwich. It was like every ingredient in that sandwich like was like nobody knew what that ingredient was, right? So like people asked me what kind of sandwich I had, I'd just be like, it's like a Chinese sandwich. Like I don't know. But it was hella good. It was tasty, but it's just like it was such a struggle to be like, I don't know what other people eat in their lunches. Like I don't know what goes in like United States sandwiches, you know? Like I was just so confused as a kid. I'm like, I don't know what other people eat for lunch.
Yeah, I feel like the hardest thing for me was when it would be like a pizza party, right? In like elementary school, and then like most of the time they would just do like cheese or like a pepperoni pizza, right? And I would have to sit there and be like, well, I can't do cheese because I was lactose intolerant from the moment I was born, I guess. And so I couldn't eat the cheese pizza, and then I couldn't eat pepperoni because pepperoni's made out of beef, right? And I like that was one thing that like my parents were like, you do not eat beef, right? And I would sit there and just like peel off the cheese and just have bread and sauce. Like every pizza party was just bread and sauce.
Wait, speaking of like sandwiches, I wanted to like talk about it because you know those Smuckers, like those little wrap. Oh my god! So my parents bought those from like the freezer aisle, and they're like, "Oh, this is so nice and so convenient." And you feel like, because like Asian people, like especially like my parents, I feel like they love eating like warm, hot food. They don't really like eating cold food necessarily because they think it's bad for like the body. And so like, growing up, I would microwave my Smuckers, and then one time I went to my friend's house and they just pulled it out of the fridge to like defrost and they were just eating it. And I was like, aren't you not gonna like microwave that? And they're like, what do you mean microwave it? I was like, you have to microwave it. It's frozen, like it's cold. And then they're like, no, this is like, did you not read the box? And that's when I realized that like they could have just been like pulled out and then just eaten. And then this whole time, every time I would microwave it for like 2 minutes because, you know, defrost. And then every time I would bite into it, like the jelly and the peanut butter would just like ooze out and it was just a mess. But yeah.
But that sounds delicious.
It was. But
like,
yeah, that was
I love making like PB and J's. You need to toast the bread.
Yeah.
You know, the peanut butter like melts into it, and then the jelly like ooh.
Yeah, warm jelly is actually not that bad with warm peanut butter. It's really not that bad.
Yeah.
It's just so weird to me because I feel like that was like a culture shock for me, even though like I'm born here and like, you know, but it was just like so crazy. I literally sat there like super like confused. I was like,
On the lunch thing, I feel like since I was the younger sibling, I kind of already had it like Americanized, so I already had like the sandwich and everything every day. But every once in a while, like my mom would pack me like rajma chawal. I don't know if you guys know what that is, like beans and rice, or dokla she would sometimes make, which is like kind of rice thing. And the helper, we had a helper to warm our lunch because we had like one microwave in the school, so they didn't trust us to. So like the helper would warm it up, and she was Indian, so she would always look at it when I had ethnic food. I'd be super embarrassed. Just in general, I was like, I was embarrassed for a long time. And she'd be like, oh my god, can you get your mom to make me this? So I would tell my mom, and my mom would pack me 2 of everything. So I would sneak one in a backpack. I would sneak it. I didn't show nobody. I would just like slide it on the counter. So yeah, that was like my job.
That's how sweet.
You're dealing like
dealing in food.
Yeah,
but I get that too. I was hella embarrassed too. I mean, I still, to low-key, I'm still kind of like, not embarrassed is the wrong word, but like, I don't necessarily speak Mandarin like in public, you know? Like, it's still like low-key, like a little bit taboo, you know? And it's like, you know, it's so weird to be like, yeah, like growing up, like thankfully my parents didn't want to go on any field trips because they were like working and they knew that they were like, we're not going to do well in this situation. But like, yeah, they were never really a participatory part of my school. Like, they knew all the shit that happened in school, and they would go to back to school night, which I found out later. The reason when they went to back to school night was because every year they would give all the parents an info sheet that's like, here's all the stuff you need to know about our school. And one of the things on that sheet was the day that report cards came out. So that's what my parents are looking for. So they knew, wrote on their calendars. Like, they knew every day the report cards would come out. Like, this is my entire middle school and high school career, which used to confuse me a lot. I was like, how did you know? Like, they would call from work and be like, did you get your report card today? I'm like, how did you know? But anyway, yeah, so they were hella involved that way, and they like knew what was going on, and they would like read my textbooks and stuff, so they knew what I was learning. But they were not a visible part of my schooling. Like, they never did like classroom stuff. They never went on field trips. They never like, that kind of
same.
stuff.
Same. My parents never did the field trip thing. They'd be like, can we just like pay? Do you need like money? Like, what do you need? Like, go.
Right.
Except there were certain things like, in elementary school where you could do like science camp or something. Like, you could go away to like an overnight thing for like 3 days. I never got to go to those.
Me neither.
Oh, you didn't go to science camp?
No. It was too expensive. Like, my mom was like, $500 for 2 nights. What?
I don't even remember if there was a cost for something. I mean, there must have been, right?
I feel like for mine it was a week, but I don't remember having to pay. But there's probably a price that we had to pay for some sort. But to be fair, everyone loved science camp. I hated it. Like, I hate nature. I would just like to put that out. Like, it's not like I hate nature. I just don't like being in the outdoors with spiders and like dirt and all that, and like not clean showers, and like it's just not it for me. I just would like to put that out. 6th grade outdoor school was just not it for me. But
yeah,
no, good to know.
I went to science camp. I actually went to science camp at Koinonia where we did LT. So
I actually really like that campsite though.
Mm-hmm.
I went for orientation like retreat, and I like went for 2 years, and I was actually like really, really enjoying that.
Yeah, those are the same mattresses we had when I was in 6th grade.
Does that make you feel better?
Okay, that's scary.
No, I mean, I hope they changed them, but they were like the same type of mattress.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they bought new ones.
Though, like when I went, I was like, wow, this is like a hotel. Like, this is new and nice. And like, for you to tell me that, like, I don't know, my mind's changed and kind of blown up.
Oh, it was the exact same cabins, like legit the same cabins, same layout, same everything. Like, the bathrooms were in the same place. Like, the cabins were exactly the same. I'd be shocked if they changed the carpet. I would be shocked.
Oh my God, I don't want to think about it.
I thought that it was so new and nice, and like, I'm just.
I mean, they probably cleaned it.
They do have like a laundry thing on site.
I know, but it's just the thought that like I was like, wow, like this must have been open like what 3 years ago, and like now I'm coming here, like it's so new, and to know that like it's been around, like shocks me.
It probably will not help you to know that I was in 6th grade in 1991.
I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, so that was the Koinonia I knew. I liked science camp. I don't know why, but we got to stay with our friends in our cabins. So like everybody was like in like cabins with their friends. Maybe it's just me. Maybe we got lucky. I don't remember.
With my friend, and just know that like in 6th grade, like you know how like everybody's like ew farts, ew. Like I just remember I was so scared because someone in my cabin like farted in the middle of the night, and like we were all just like unexpecting that, and so like it was just so loud and so like it was so quiet because we were like about to go to sleep, and when we heard that and smelled that, it was just not it too. It was just not it.
That's great. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of our time today. But I wanted to give folks a chance to weigh in a little bit about like tying this back to like the PETA task force on campus and stuff. Like, I don't know exactly the question I want to ask, but kind of like something along the lines of like, where do you hope that we'll go next year? Like, what are some goals that you want the task force to have, like, or the campus to have? Like, what do you want to see out of the campus? Something like that, right? Like, what do you want to see, like, in terms of like a PETA support on campus? Who wants to go first?
When we get the chance to go back, I think it would be cool to I think it'd be cool to celebrate all our holidays for real, like a full on thing. That's what I want. And I want my Punjabi prom. That's
Yes, very similar to what Carl said. I think being able to like just all come together as like a community and celebrate all of our traditions and like have like different people around campus be represented in more ways than before would be definitely a goal. And like just having more conversations and like having people join our like podcasts, panel thingy mabob. I think that would be really cool just to have more like different perspectives and
I guess for me, I want to see more like community building too. I feel like the Asian American identity is so big and like it's so diverse, and that's never spoken about. And like it needs to be spoken about a lot more. And it, given that our campus has a very big Asian American community and people will be flaunting that all the time, like they need to also support that community if they're going to use that as a statistic.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I think we're in a time where there's like an awakening, right? That's happening socially, politically. And I would like to see more unity, on our campus. I think we have so many student orgs within the, APIDA like realm on our campus alone, but I often see them working in silos, right? They have multiple events happening in a week, but they're all over each other, right? And there's not enough collaboration, like y'all were saying, or not enough like cross promoting. I don't know. I just feel like it would be great to see student orgs come together and working together and really highlighting each other. And then on top of that, right, to see resources that we could be like, yeah, this is happening, this is a resource, right? Whether that's just through the task force or through our faculty and staff, through our student orgs, whatever it may be. But yeah, just more community, like y'all are saying, but then also an ability to like work together in a way that can really highlight our voices and highlight our like experience on the SJSU community and the work and the events that are being put on by all of our amazing groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I echo a lot of that. Like, I agree with all of you. Like, I think definitely like wanting to build a greater sense of community on campus, having folks know that they can hit each other up. Um, like Anoop said, we have a large APIDA population on campus, but like the campus doesn't feel like it has a large APIDA population, and we need to do something about that because like it can be very easy for somebody who identifies as like Asian or like South Asian or Pacific Islander, like to come onto campus and feel like, oh, I'm just going to school at any campus, like any UC or any CSU or even like state schools in like other parts of the country. And like, that's not really what we should be striving for. Like, we should be striving for folks to come on this campus and be like, oh, like I feel more at home on this campus because there's like more stuff that I can identify with through my culture, my identities, than if I went to like Davis or if I went to like San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to do a better job of that on campus. And I think that will have to happen through a lot of different ways, right? Obviously, the task force, which needs to be a little bit more robust in terms of like support. Like, I would love for more staff, faculty, and students to be involved in the task force. And I would also love specifically more budget in the task force.
Hint, hint.
If someone's listening. But also like, I would love for like just students in general to be like, oh, like let's like have our student orgs like meet each other and like do like programs that are with each other like collaboratively, or like have our faculty members be like, oh, like we're going to push for more like Asian American classes or like ethnic studies classes where folks can understand more. about the identities, like stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Preferably those classes are taught by like those ethnics.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I was like, I think I was like looking at the AAS classes, and then I saw that it was like taught by like a white person, and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I would enjoy this class, and then I ended up not taking it, and I low key am sad. I wish I like took it.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna add like from a student perspective, like yeah, I have been part of a few APID clubs, but I also really have noticed that we really don't like mingle out of our own group or club. Like I have noticed that. And I don't know why it seems so difficult for us to. And I feel like with the task force that like we could be that one channel of like communicating through with everybody, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to think that that hasn't changed, right? Like, I know there's research that shows why folks stick with their own communities, right? There's safety, there's, you don't have to explain yourself, right? There's a comfort, right? And if you're trying to survive, you want to be comfortable, right? And that higher ed can feel very isolating. But also, I think we're all so diverse, even on this podcast. I think it's like, hopefully whoever's watching or listening or whatever, you can see that there are people who are really eager to collaborate with you and work with you and build those connections, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's also really needed right now. So, if you're a student leader for a student org, like hit up the task force, see what's out there. Hit up AS, right? Anoop is our representative. And so, everyone wants to, help and support. And, the work that we're doing now hopefully leads to something better in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that, like, we at San Jose State can do a lot to try to change it. And also we need to acknowledge that this is like, we are perpetuating historic stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
Asians are not good at coming together as one identity group, right? Like, and it's it's not necessarily our fault per se. It's like we don't have a shared language, we don't have a shared we don't have shared foods, we don't have shared holidays, and we have a history of colonizing each other. So like, so the struggle is not the same,
Right.
so like, they're very like historic reasons why we have difficulty pulling together kind of a pan-Asian identity, and at the same time, like, for San Jose State, like, we're all here,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like, let's we have the chance to like do things here differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, just in case we might have people who are watching / listening, we're going to be doing this every week for the next few weeks. And we got a few topics lined up that we think are going to be fun to talk about. However, and on top of that, whatever you want, whatever conjunction you want to use, if you have suggestions as to what you want us to talk about, / if you're interested in joining us and you are a San Jose State student, staff, or faculty member, hit us up. DM our Instagram, comment on this. You'll see we'll be plugging this on Instagram. We'll be plugging it, yeah.
SU APIDA.
One more time, Jeannie.
Follow us on Instagram at SU APIDA. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely like hit us up. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keeping up with APIDA.